to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us today. Get ready to be inspired and motivated to live a high-impact life. Now, here's Rick.
Welcome to the Point of Impact podcast. I'm Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us again today. We're in this theme of gold medal living or winning at the game of life, whatever cool terminology you want to use, but just kind of looking at the Olympics when we were on break and just wanting to have some principles for you that I think are key to winning in life. And it's great to compete in athletics and win, but we're all in the game of life. Athletes are just in their particular sport, but all of us are in this game called life, and you want to win. And in order to win, there's certain things that you have to do. So we spent a couple weeks talking about some of those key principles that lead to success and winning, like preparation and sacrifice, and that's where the victory is. And now, these next 2 weeks, I kind of want to shift it. Today, what to do when you lose, What do you do when you lose? Because you can't always win. No one always wins. If you get 3 hits out of every 10 in baseball, you are a major success as a hitter, and yet that means 7 times you didn't. And if you can shoot 50% in basketball, you are an outstanding shooter, and that means you make half your shots and you miss half your shots. So this is just the way it goes. If you can throw 70% as a quarterback, you're doing a great job. That's a great completion rate, but that still means that 30% of your passes are incomplete. So perfection is not attainable. That's a heaven experience. We're here on earth, and so we know that losing is a part of our lives. And then next week I want to talk to you about quitting and how can you keep yourself from quitting, because here's what we know for sure: you can never win if you're not in the game. So how do you stay in it to win it? That's next week. This week, what to do when you lose. But before we get into that, just want to throw out there again what I talked about last week, which is forming a launch team for my new book, Greater. And you talk about a book for winners and winning. How can you live a greater life? So the way it works is we're looking for 100 people who would get a digital copy of the book, and the book comes out on November 18th. So, got a little bit of time here to do it, and maybe read about 30 of the devotions out of the 100, and then be able to write a nice review about what you think and your experience with it, and post it, and that's kind of what you do. And what we do is say, hey, become a part of this private Facebook group that we're having, where we can interact, you and I, and also we'll give you at the end of when you post the review access to a 6 audio session called Fear Less, not fearless, like never fear, but like less fear, like less financial fears and less fear of the future and less fear of rejection and stuff like that, less fear of failure, messages that I've done that I think can really, really, really help you. So those are available to you. So if you'd like to do that, you can go on rickmcdaniel.com, fill out the contact form, say I want to be on the Greater Book Launch Team, great. Or you can contact Terry, Terry, Terry at rickmcdaniel.com, and Terry will get your information, and then we'll put you on the team. But we'd love to have you join us on this team. This is a great way to kind of get the word out initially for a book, is to have people just share what they have read right from this, so like from day one that people are looking, they already have folks that have already read it enough to be able to comment on it. So it's really helpful. I'd appreciate you helping me. I also think it's great for you because you get to, read it ahead of time and get a chance to experience it as well. So love to have you be a part of it, and but need to do it soon because the clock is ticking, and we need the 30 days to probably at least do that, just to read it. And then you got to write the review, and that's going to take right up to November 18th. So if you'd like to do that, we would appreciate it for sure. All right, what to do when you lose? Because you can't always win. you can't always win. And you look at the Olympics, and you just see people, like this Noah Lyles, and wins the 100, and the 200 is even a stronger event than the 100. So for sure he's going to win. And then all of a sudden he gets COVID, and he ends up with the bronze medal. He doesn't win. It doesn't happen for him. And then conversely, you have Sha'Carri Richardson, who was favored to win the 100, and shockingly, a gal from St. Lucia, a country, I've been there, it's small, and they've never had an Olympic gold medalist, and the gal from there ends up beating her and wins the gold medal. So these things happen. They're just they happen in every Olympics. I can remember the previous Olympics, and a runner from Puerto Rico was disqualified. Just like, what in the world? Someone can go in just really hot and just think, man, they are gonna do it, and they just don't. It just does not happen. And all it takes is one bad performance, and you don't get the medal. And then you can go into other aspects of athletics and competition, and you can just see when things just don't go your way. I've got a good friend who loves the Minnesota Twins, and they were just they were on their way to making the playoffs, and then they just kind of stumbled at the worst possible time and ended up not getting into the baseball playoffs. And now they thought they had it, and then it's gone. And this is life, right? And the same thing happens with us. We think we found the perfect person to spend the rest of our life with, and then they break off the engagement and say, "Yeah, I don't want to do it." Or you think you got a career that you're going to pursue, and you sort of have a dream job in mind, and then just things don't go the way that you thought that they were going to go. Or you don't take care of your body the way that you should, and then you end up with some type of sickness, disease, or injury, and you're like, wow, this is not going at all the way that I hoped that it would go. I mean, no one likes to lose. The question is, what can you do to not lose again? That's today's episode. How can you keep yourself from losing again? And the answer is you have to be willing to change. If you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always gotten. I mean, that's it, right? Definition of insanity. I like it. I like the story in the Gospel of John chapter 8 where these guys are going to stone this lady who has been caught in adultery. Not the guy, but just the lady. And Jesus is like, okay, whoever is not sinned, you cast the first stone. And one by one, everybody puts their stones down and walks away. And that leaves Jesus and the lady. Now, the lady is obviously thrilled to have been spared her life, but it isn't like Jesus said, okay, you're good to go. That's not what happened. Jesus said, go and sin no more. In other words, don't take this moment of grace as an opportunity not to change your lifestyle. No more adultery for you. That's got to end in your life. I like to say you go from sinning to winning. From sinning to winning is all about changing your ways. If you want to win again and not lose, listen to the message of losing. Losing tells you you need to change something. There's something that you need to change. And you go through history, you go through sports, you go through anything, and you see people that lose and then get back on the winning track are people that do things differently. There's a coach, Brian Kelly. He now coaches at LSU. He was an extremely successful, is and always has been an extremely successful coach who just would win, win, win. And that winning got him all the way to the job at Notre Dame because he just didn't lose. And then one season he was at Notre Dame, he had his first losing season ever in his entire career. And by the way, his first and last losing season. It wasn't like he got fired from Notre Dame. He chose to leave Notre Dame. Shocking, because usually no one does that. I can't think of anyone who left there on their own. They always lose their job, but he left to go to LSU, powerhouse SEC school that's won national championships, and he wanted to be a part of that program. But when he was at Notre Dame, he lost, and he had his first losing season. And instead of just going like, well, I've had all these winning seasons, and so, one loss, it's losing season, it's not that bad. He literally met with all of his staff. He met with every single player. He made changes to his coaching staff. He made changes with his players. I mean, he was just like, I'm not ever going to have a losing season again, and I will make whatever changes I need to make in order to keep winning. And you look at even someone like a Tiger Woods, changed his swing, changed his coach, changed his caddy, because he was like, I'm just going to keep winning and winning and winning and winning and winning. And he's tied right now. One more win, and he will be the all-time winningest golfer in the history of golf. And really, when you consider who he's tied with in the competition versus the competition today, I think we could all say that he's already in that group, but that's all right. But you look at how many more wins he has. He has way more wins than anyone playing golf now. No one, the chances of anyone catching him, and a considerable amount more wins than, say, Jack Nicklaus, who's considered, his competition for the greatest golfer of all time. So Tiger Woods just would change whatever had to be changed in order to keep on winning. Losing, here's counterintuitive, is actually crucial to winning because it's the feedback on our current performance. Losing is the feedback about how we're doing. And when you lose, it's a chance for you to say, okay, to get to the next level, I need to embrace the feedback about my current performance. Can you do that? Some people just can't seem to take it, can't seem to take the feedback. Losing is so debilitating, destructive to them. Can't handle the criticism of losing gives you, not good enough. Or can you just say, okay, I'm going to take this losing constructively, not personally. Just because you've lost doesn't mean, it means you're a bad person, or you should, internalize this about your own self-image or self-concept. It means that it's feedback about your performance, and you can use it constructively. Seeing your life from a different perspective is how you change. You let go of old ideas and concepts and attitudes, and you allow room for new ideas and concepts and attitudes. Be willing to change. Be open to the feedback of losing. Don't let losing make you think you're a loser. Everyone loses. The question is, what can you do about it? And here's what you can do about it. Become comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm coaching someone right now that is a business owner and is in the midst of a very challenging situation, owns franchises, and so it's complicated. It's his business, and then he's connected to a larger company. And in the midst of all of this, the other day, I just said to him, you've got to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so many people don't want to do that. And can I just tell you, if you want to turn the losing around to winning, that's what you have to be able to do. Now, here's what I mean by that. There is an uncomfortableness with change, that you have to do things differently, or you have to do things you haven't done, or you have to stop doing things you've been doing. All of those things are in your comfort zone, and you've got to be able to get out of your comfort zone and essentially embrace the lack of comfort. All progress, all growth takes place outside of the comfort zone, our comfort zone. So you have to be willing to do that. And that's not easy for anyone. But it's crucial. You have to understand that change is a process. And that's how you stay motivated, is like if you're going to change your swing like a Tiger Woods, I mean, you don't just change your swing in a day or a week. I mean, it is a process. And that's the thing. Process. Just going through the process that is necessary. And really, that comes down to focusing on one thing at a time. You know, you don't change everything all at once. You just, like, again, not that I'm some great golfer or anything, but I understand the concepts. There's the bottom part of your half of your body and the upper half, and those are really two different things. And then even within each of those, you've got your feet, and you've got your hips, and you've got your arms and shoulders. There's multiple aspects, the turn of the body, all that sort of stuff. So, you don't change a swing like in one thing. It's a process where you go through a series of changes that ultimately result in something new and better. Here's just some questions that you can ask yourself in this process of changing and moving from losing to winning. Like, is this your goal or somebody else's? Because if it's yours and you can own it, then there's a much greater chance of change. But I mean, if it's somebody else's dream, if it's somebody else's goal, that might give you a big clue about where you're at, whether you're really invested fully in this change, because you have to be. If you're going to make positive, permanent change, you've got to be fully invested in it. You have to own it. What will be different this time? What's going to be the difference? Well, I'm going to win instead of lose. Okay, yeah, got it. That's the macro. That's sort of the big picture. But, what is going to be different? And, of course, it could involve the first two things we've already talked about in terms of preparation and sacrifice, and all the subsets that go into that in terms of discipline and your will and work and effort, all these things, what's going to be different? Maybe those sorts of things have to be different in order for you to win. And that's the change that you have to make. Here's another question. Can you envision yourself doing this? If you can't, then it's not going to happen. It's just like people that, I got to get in shape. I got to be able to fit into these clothes. I got to look better in these pictures. Okay. So I'm just going to, stop eating all this stuff, and I'm going to be in the gym every day. And then you just have to, is that, can you envision yourself doing that? I mean, maybe you can, but for most people, that's kind of a prescription for more losing. Like, maybe it would be better to just be in the gym, say 3 times a week consistently, instead of believing you could be in there every day. And maybe it would be more realistic to think about gradually changing what you, taking things out of your diet, make a change. Yes, a radical change, sure. But, maybe you don't stop eating 10 things. Maybe you stop eating 2 and you work your way to 10. Can you envision yourself doing this? And then will the change make a difference? I mean, is this it? If you do this, will you get that? If you make these changes, is this going to bring the victory? Is this going to get you on the winning side? And if the answer to that is yes, then you've got it. There's your motivation. You know what to do. If you're not sure, then you probably need to spend more time discerning what is it that needs to change, because you don't want to change and then still end up not having the success that you have, because there's no doubt. I mean, I am an enormous believer. People know me for saying this, and I'll say it to you, and maybe you've never heard this or heard me say it, but you can change without growing, but you can't grow without changing. You can change without growing, but you can't grow without changing. So here's what that means. You can make changes, and they may not be the right changes. And, to use sort of a crazy example, but, you could change and say, I'm going to start eating donuts pretty much every morning for breakfast. I'm going to make sure I have dessert every night. And that's a change. I hope it's changed for you. You're not doing that now. Now you can make those changes, but that is not going to be changes that make you a healthier, stronger, better looking, better appearance person. You've made changes, but you're not growing in the direction of health and wellness. But you can't grow without changing. I mean, that's just the way that it works. You've got to be able to see the challenge as the pathway and understand how growth comes through making the sort of changes that you need to make in your life, and understanding it takes time for a new behavior to be solidified in your life. And I mean, I'm sure you're somewhat familiar with, habits and habit stacking. And if you're not, maybe I can do an episode on that and all the sorts of things that go into that. I'm pretty sure I already have talked about these things in some way, shape, or form in previous seasons. But the idea, that how long does it take to form a habit? But really, researchers can say, 28 days or 40 days or whatever, but probably, over about a 6-month period is really where new behaviors are kind of solidified in your life. So it's not a quick process, but at the same time, 6 months is not a long time. I was thinking about this in the new book Greater, in the 100, it's got 100 devotions, like 100 readings, and most people don't read on Sunday because they're going to church, and maybe not even on the weekend. Maybe it's because Saturdays can have a lot of things going on. Not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying realistically, and so all of a sudden you're really down to about 5 a week. So then to get to 100 is 20 weeks, right? And so then if you say within each week, you're going to miss here or there, for maybe different reasons. You wake up late one morning, or, you forget to do it, or you're traveling and you don't bring the book with you or whatever. And I was just doing some of the numbers, and for a lot of people, probably it could take about 6 months to actually get through what, if you read it every single day and never missed, would be done in about 3.5 months. So, but I just was thinking about that, and then just thinking about this solidifying, and I would just say, if you read, when Greater comes out, if you just read it, it took you like 6 months, pretty consistently, not every single day, but pretty consistently, you'd get like a whole new mindset about what a greater life would be like. And I think you'd be on your way to something very positive, just for instance, in terms of that sort of shameless plug for my book / actual evidence of how long it takes. But what do what kind of change? Maybe you want to change careers. Maybe there's a temptation that you just, you've got to be able to overcome it. Like, the woman in adultery, like, I got to stop doing this. It's ruining my life. It may have already ruined my marriage. And if this one didn't, another one will certainly do it. Maybe you want to get closer to Jesus. Like, maybe you need to start having like a daily reading. You're not doing that. So you read a devotion, you're reading scripture, and you're here, you're getting something every single day, and you're not doing that, and you need to do that. Maybe it is something to do with your health, where you just like, you've got to make a change. You just can't keep doing it, and you've got to do it long enough, consistently long enough, that it really results in something. And when you make changes, you win. When you accept the challenge of change, you're on your way to reaching your God-given potential. You're on your way to winning, getting off the losing side and getting on the winning side. That's how it works. I'd say find someone who's successfully changed and, let them guide you. Be accountable, let them guide you, coach you, whatever terminology you want to use. Find someone who's done it. And then follow their system, their guidance, their direction. Ask yourself about the people that you are in your group, in your circle. Who you're in relationship with today determines the changes in your life tomorrow. You're around the wrong people. Over the years, man, people have told me, what their friends have told them, some of the worst advice, just absolutely horribly bad advice about their relationship, marriage, or about their career or job. Just like, what? Don't follow that. That's, the people that you're around, man, they got a lot to do with your success and your ability to win. You got to be around the right people. You have to be willing to say, I really can't successfully do this on my own. I don't have the strength. I don't have the power. And you need to be able to say, God, help me. Give me your strength. The Bible says that there's a power that comes through the Holy Spirit that is a power that is supernatural, not natural, above natural. The Bible says things like, I can do all things. Really? That's the end of it? No, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. He's the one that's strengthening me. He's the one that's allowing me to do it. Asking for God's help, his power, his strength, his assistance to be able to make the changes that you need to make. Giving up control and saying, God, you do the work through me. And then there's always the mindset issue. I talk a lot about it. It's certainly part of the greater concept. What you think about longest will become strongest in your life. What you think about longest will become strongest in your life. If you are thinking change, if you are thinking growth, if you are thinking winning, what you think about longest will become strongest. You will change. It's just a fact. That's just how it works. And to just be able to say, I'm enjoying the challenge of changing so I can win. I am savoring the adventure. It's an adventure. The change process is an adventure. I'm happy, I'm happy about the prospect of my future. Now that is, that kind of, if you can get that, where you're like, I'm really just enjoying this change experience. It's hard. It's painful at times, uncomfortable, but there's an adventure there, and I'm really savoring the adventure that this is taking me on. And, and I'm just happy and excited about the future and about turning this losing into winning. And when you can look at change that way, you're on your way. What to do when you lose? Take the feedback and say, got to make changes, and I'm going to. And then those changes are going to change my losing streak into a winning streak. Whatever that looks like in your spiritual life, in your health, in your finances, in your career, in your relationships, whatever we're talking about, you can win in all those areas of your life. Absolutely can win. And if you're losing right now, it's time to change. Have a great week.
You've been listening to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode.